Good morning, afternoon, or evening, or whatever time it is for you guys today, and welcome back to today's video and this week's introduction. So this week we're going to be going over chapter number 8 in your McGraw-Hill book. Specifically, we're going to be looking at families. Now, one of the biggest things when we're looking at families and adolescenthood versus, say, childhood is there is going to be a vast difference in how we approach adolescence from a family perspective. And what I mean by that is we no longer have to, say, guide as much for our adolescents as, say, we would for a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, right? So the way that we interact with an adolescent in a family is vastly different than, say, someone in early or middle or even late childhood. Your book talks about parents being managers of an adolescence, and I don't mean them as like a pop star manager, okay? We can all have heard stories of like Miley Cyrus or any of those famous childhood actors that have a manager. That's not what I'm talking about here. But in essence, partly, what I mean by that is when we are getting to become adolescents, you might think back to your own high school days. You might have been in various clubs, various organizations that had extracurricular activities, so outside of school time. And you were dependent, at least until you got your learner's permit or until you got your driver's license, on someone, i.e. generally your parents, although it could have been someone else, someone taking you to those other events that you signed up to do. So they are your managers of your time. So when we talk about families, we really need to think about families in a different way than what we have been thinking about for childhood. And one of the biggest things that we need to be thinking about is the idea of reciprocal socialization. So when we talk about reciprocal socialization is the process in which children and adolescents socialize their parents just as the parents are socializing them. So rather than it being a one-way street, whereas parents are telling the child what you have to do, it is now more of a reciprocal relationship. What I mean by that is now adolescents are also telling their parents, hey, I need to do this. So it's a two-way street at that point. One of the other biggest things that we have to think about when we are coming into families, especially in adolescenthood, is the idea that it's not just about the parent and the child, but it's also about the marital relationship. So the relationship that your parents have amongst themselves. So as we have discussed so far in this class, we've really been focusing on the individual, i.e. the adolescents. We haven't really thought about how other relationships that are around that adolescence is affecting the child's development and behaviors. And this is the first idea where we're like, okay, the family is starting to have a bigger emphasis. And so what we are actually seeing is that researchers have broadened the focus not just on the parent-adolescent relationship, which, don't get me wrong, is important, and we're going to be talking about that. However, we do see this link between the marital relationship and parenting. So what is found here, is that the most consistent findings are that happily married parents or happily married couples are going to be more sensitive, more responsive, more warm, more affectionate, more what we would say as authoritative parenting styles, not authoritarian parenting styles, right? So the more sensitive, responsive, warm, affectionate towards your children and adolescents. Those that have a lot of strife in their marriage are going to have a lot more conflict, a lot more, say, authoritarian, maybe even permissive parenting styles that might appear in their relationships. So The positive family climate, i.e., when parents are happily married, then they generally have a more positive family climate. If the parents are not as happily married and have a lot more conflict, strife in their marriage, then you're going to see a more negative family climate, which then, of course, can affect the development of the child and adolescent. So as we move forward throughout this week, we're really going to be focusing our attention on parenting and how that affects the development for adolescents. One of the things that we will also be viewing in a video this week is looking at the effects of modeling the relationships in, say, a marriage and how that might affect the relationships that adolescents get into. So, if you have any questions for this week, please let me know. If not, I'll see you guys later. Bye. Before I let you go, I forgot to tell you, don't forget that the Smart Book Quiz is going to be due on Thursday, and then, of course, your developmental playlist check-in. This is your last check-in before your final larger unit playlist is going to be due next week. So go ahead and start working on that if you want to work a little bit ahead. I'm going to tell you right now, it's the same setup pretty much as last time. So you can go back and look at that previous video. It's pretty much the exact same. The rubric is going to be the exact same too. So you know what's coming for your larger developmental playlist. But if you do have any specific questions, please let me know. That is going to be due, the check-in is going to be due on Sunday, and then of course you do have your yellow date that will also be due on Sunday as well. If you have any questions, please let me know. If not, I'll see you guys later. Bye.